This is great.
Okay, obviously we're going to record this. So, everyone, firstly, I want to say that I'm really excited to introduce Dr. Paul Asirio to us. He's the Chief Science Officer for Isogenics. And he's someone who I really admire and watch everything that he does. And we met at a lunch in Brisbane a couple of years ago. And from then on, I've really followed him. And so when he took on this role, I was super excited because he is one of the world's leading experts in nutrition science. And he's done over, and I'm sure, who would say how many peer-reviewed studies has he done? Anybody know? 60 peer-reviewed studies, plus, to his name, and decades of research. So he's also the creator of the PRIZE protocol. So when you hear people talking about protein pacing, guess where that came from? Yay! And I'm sure he'll tell you what PRIZE stands for. So in short, he's a scientific powerhouse. And, there's just so much behind him. And to have him so connected to the Isogenics and Isogenics company program and everything just gives me so much pride. And then yesterday, I said to Lockie, hey, Lockie, I'm having a chat with Dr. Paul. Would you join us? So, as most of you know, and you've just heard Lockie's introduction, he's got 25 years worth of experience as a trainer, sports nutritionalist. And, what he doesn't know about training and achieving your goals in fitness and health isn't worth knowing. So, Lockie, we'd love to have you on here too. And so let's get going. The group here is our leaders. So we have an amazing group, really excited to have them here with me this weekend. We started yesterday. We also have Jen Jeffries. So maybe to make you guys both feel comfortable, if we just really quickly go around the room and just say your name so that he knows who he's talking to. Start with you, Rachel.
Rachel Brown.
Huh?
Nicole Coleman, hello. Celine Brockpool, hello. Renee Skipper, hello. Jen Jeffries, Sinead Riley, Kelly Prater, Belinda McGowan.
Dean Godwin.
Oh.
Neil Regard.
And in the front row.
Caroline Austin, hi.
Hi, Natalie Cole.
That's a shy.
Hello, everyone.
Okay.
Welcome.
So I'm going to hand straight to you, Dr. Paul, let you lead this out. So we will obviously come in with questions, but let's hear from you first.
Okay, Heather, thank you. And this is a real treat to be on with Lockie. So, hi, everyone. Thanks for taking the time. This is a real treat when Heather mentioned that she was pulling together some leaders, knowing that it was over here in the States, our Thanksgiving. We give thanks. This is a great opportunity for me to give thanks to all of you for what you do. And what you mean to other people. You're a beacon of light and hope and health. And so, yeah, it's a real honor. I never pass up an opportunity to share with like-minded people who are on the same mission of helping other people. So there's really no boundary. I know Heather maybe felt a little bit hesitant to ask me to come on with all of you the day after Thanksgiving. I traveled home, back home today. It was a 3-hour drive, and I didn't hesitate at all. I thought, absolutely, yeah, we're all on this mission together, truly, genuinely, authentically to help people. And so, yeah, I don't live with a boundary when it comes to that. So I've been doing this for a long time, 42 years is when I started. Fresh out of university, actually even in university, I knew that I wanted to do something that would make a direct impact on people's lives from a health standpoint. And it was kind of, the med school route or the science route. And to me, the science won out, obviously, just because I felt like it was more at the time and still is to this day, more preventative in nature. What could people do to avoid becoming sick, or what could they do when they are sick to help improve their lives without some of the other more mainstream traditional medical interventions with pharmaceuticals and drugs and things like that. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful that I stayed the course and I pursued the research part of it and the working with people in their everyday challenge of choosing a healthier lifestyle. So it's been a wonderful journey, and over those 42 years, as Heather said, I've been able to kind of bring it all together with my Prize Life protocol. That's very holistic, whole person. So I really hold to that. That I think in order for us to um, make a difference in people's lives, we can't compartmentalize the experiences that we live on a daily basis. We can't compartmentalize them in the sense that we treat them different from each other or in isolation of each other. And so that's really where I feel most let's see, inspired when I get to speak to people like you and to have people like Lockie who's out, doing it for a living with people on a daily basis, kind of boots on the ground, as we say, that you all know that when we can bring together the collective life experiences that we have on a daily basis that include how we nourish our body with nutrition, how we move our body with physical activity and exercise, how we engage our brain in both cognitive, mental tasks, as well as mood boosting experiences. So when we can, bring all of those things together in a whole person approach, very holistic in nature, that's when we really that's what really resonates from a human experience standpoint and a health benefit standpoint. So that's what we do, and yeah, I never pass up an opportunity to talk on this topic because it's so pressing. With the rates of disease and lifestyle related diseases, chronic lifestyle related diseases that are really becoming out of control, we need to take a step back and do a better job in helping people manage this on a regular basis with those things. The nutrition, number one, the movement, number two, the cognitive mental task, number three, and then the kind of the mind, body, emotional well-being component. And so we have a solution, a really effective one that kind of addresses each of those areas at a really high level of impact with the work that we do on our own, but then especially starting with the nutrition. And that's really what we're going to focus on today is what can you do really as the lowest hanging fruit? What is it that you can do nutritionally that's kind of the easiest to implement? What requires the least effort, the least thinking, but with the greatest return on investment in terms of what you do. And so if I could, I'll just start with that it really comes down to two things when it comes to our nutrition. It's protein, highest quality protein. I think that's pretty well assumed now, but it never hurts to remind people that that is really the starting point. And if you've been following the longevity world and social media and some of the self-proclaimed longevity experts, they're all starting with that from a nutrition standpoint, there's really nothing more effective for our long-term health than us making sure that first and foremost on a regular basis, daily basis, we're nourishing our body with the highest quality protein. That reigns supreme. It's number one. It's really that which we need to do to safeguard against the diseases of aging, things like metabolic disease, type 2 diabetes, things like heart disease, things like inflammatory toxin-related diseases, things like neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, and then fourth would be musculoskeletal. Things like losing our muscle mass, sarcopenia, losing our muscle function, which is called dynapenia, losing our bone mineral density, osteoporosis. So all of those things, I think metabolic, heart, toxin, inflammatory related, neurodegenerative, and musculoskeletal, five. I only counted four. It's actually five. It all starts with the highest quality protein that you can consume. That's the surest way to help safeguard against those diseases of aging, and the number one way that we can promote health span, longevity at a really high level. And then number two would be doing those things. So that protein is there to help support our lean body mass. And then the second thing is that intermittent nutritional fasting, making sure that our body is properly um, taking care of exposure to harmful poisons and toxins and pollutants, and things that we just don't want lingering, microplastics, things that we don't want lingering inside of our body. We want to make sure that we're removing those things as quickly as we can. And it's a process called autophagy. You've probably heard it, and apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. I call it, house cleaning, vacuuming. So really doing those two things, highest quality protein, and then making sure we're giving our body time to clean itself, and to get rid of unwanted debris that we no longer want, that shouldn't be there. And as I said, it's things like poisons, toxins, microplastics, pollutants, things that are really damaging. And then old cells, right? We don't want to keep old cells in our body. That's a trigger for some pretty nasty health conditions. And so when we're fueling with the highest quality protein to help replenish all of those tissues in our body, to build new, and when we have things that are flooding our body with really healthy ways of removing unwanted material, cells, and debris, that's really beneficial, and that would be the intermittent nutritional fasting. So we offer both of those nutritional strategies, I would say, at the highest level, and we have a very, very robust database of human clinical trial peer-reviewed research studies to support that. So yeah, I guess I'll start there and end where I just did, because that's a good place to start. That I think you're all here because you have committed, you've dedicated yourself to wanting to learn more, be able to live it yourself. And then, more importantly than anything, here we are on the topic of Thanksgiving. You want to be able to give it back to other people and share it. And there's nothing more, yeah, precious and noble, right, in life than to be able to share with others a health promoting lifestyle. And so, yeah, again, I'll turn it back to all of you. Thank you for what you do. And I'll pause there and maybe see if there's any questions, or maybe Lox and I can start to dive a little bit deeper into both of those things.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Paul. That's a great start, and so much faith in, Isogenics and the Isogenics program and products. And that was going to be a question which you just about covered, but there might be something that might trigger for you to add is, you made a huge decision to come in and take on the massive role that you've taken on now with Isogenics. And what was it about the company, the products, their ethos, the way they do things that made that a no-brainer decision for you to make?
I get asked that all the time. What was it that allowed you to take that leap of faith and really come to that decision as a scientist, an independent third-party scientist, to align as strongly as I have with Isogenics? Because it's a big decision as an independent third-party scientist to align themselves with a third-party entity, a private industry entity. And what really won me over, Heather, was actually quite simple. I had a lot of hesitation, reluctance to partner with Isogenics as a third-party scientist when they first approached me, asking if I'd be interested in doing a study. At the time, I had done a little bit of private industry research, meaning private industry funded research. I was getting some philanthropic funding. I was getting some National Institute of Health, that's our government agency that supports funded research. And so I was a little bit hesitant, I have to admit. I was a little bit skeptical about Isogenics. I didn't know much about it, first of all. And then when I heard it was a a network marketing company, I became even more skeptical. But what won me over was when I wrote the study proposal, the first one back in 2013. I'll never forget it because I remember coming home and telling my wife that this company was asking me to write a proposal, submit a proposal. I said, I'm just going to shoot for the stars. I'm going to put into this study so much in terms of what I want to do. I'm going to treat it like it's an NIH funded study. I'm going to ask for, as much as I can. I'm going to keep it as separate from them as I can in terms of, working relationship and making sure that they didn't have any influence on the study data. And so I remember writing it up, and it was an expensive study, which I thought right away was going to put a huge strike against me in terms of them agreeing to do it. It was hundreds of thousands of US dollars. And it was a lengthy study. I wanted to test a wide group of people. I wanted to really push the envelope in terms of scientific rigor with the study design. And what came back was the direct opposite. When I was thinking they were going to say, "Oh no, we can't do this. It's too expensive. It's too much of, us giving up any oversight on the study. It's too long in duration. There's too big of a risk of us not knowing the outcome of the study and you publishing it without us being able to see the data before you publish it." I mean, there was a lot of things they could have come back and just been like, "We're going to squash this, thank you, but no thank you." And the direct opposite happened. I'll never forget it. The direct opposite. When they responded back to me, they said, this is fantastic. This is the exact kind of study that we want to conduct to test our system, our nutritional products. And I thought, wow. So, and on top of that, they said, we don't want to have any first right of refusal. We don't want to, determine whether or not you can publish the data. And I said, are you sure? You realize that I'm going to get the findings I get, and good or bad, I'm going to publish them in a peer-reviewed medical scientific journal. And I'll never forget it. They paused for a second, and they kind of, on the other end, were thinking, well, of course, we understand that. Why would we want to intervene on that? You're the expert, not us. What you find is what you find. And that was what won me over. And so you talk about the ethos of Isogenics. That's it. It's a high integrity, honest company. And that is why I decided eventually to align with them. And once I saw the results, there again, I had some skepticism because I had a research team of 12 other scientists that were helping with the study. And when they reported back with the findings, the preliminary findings, I said, oh, there's got to be a couple of outliers. There's got to be some data that you haven't, properly checked to make sure, because some of the findings were just so groundbreaking and so compelling. As one example, improvement in the percentage of lean body mass. When a lot of times when people lose a lot of weight, and these people lost a lot of weight, and we weren't really focused on the weight, but when people lose a lot of weight, a lot of it, up to 40%, is lean muscle mass. In fact, we see that all the time with the GLP-1 agonists that people take, Wegovy and Ozempic and things like that, semaglutide and liraglutide. It's not uncommon to see up to 40% lean body mass. And when they came back and they showed a 9% of increase in the percentage of lean body mass, that was startling. And a 41% reduction in insulin, right? Insulin resistance increases as we age and as we become more sick. And we had a 41% improvement, lowering of the insulin. We measured toxins, and those changed favorably with cellular health. So I could go on. There was just across the board heart health. We measured blood vessel elasticity. So not just blood pressure. So that's an important marker. You're all familiar with it. We measured blood lipids. We measured blood glucose, but we measured the blood vessel health by measuring how well it could extend. And how elastic it is, because that's a healthy sign of a blood vessel. A blood vessel's ability to what we call dilate and become very elastic, and then to come back is a sign of health, youthfulness, fitness. And these people were middle-aged, and some were really sick. and their blood vessel health improved by 20%. I mean, incredible numbers, in many ways, things, amounts that we don't see with medication. So, that's just a little snippet of why I became so intrigued and so committed to continue this relationship with Isogenics, because the findings were and have been to this day so compelling. And then to kind of maybe complete the circle, I tested it in really fit people because I was interested to see, all right, well, this is sick people. They have a much longer, much larger degree to which they can improve. And so, some people were like, that's not those are really amazing results, but it's not necessarily that unexpected in people that are not very healthy. But the magnitude of improvement was what has been so amazing. But we also tested it in really fit men and women. I mean, really fit, and they had many of the same improvements across the board in their health and in their performance. And then the final study that we did was looking at the gut microbiome. And really, that was kind of the piece of the puzzle that ties all of these things together. Now it makes sense why we showed all of those improvements in their metabolic health, in their cardiovascular health, in their body composition health, in their toxin inflammatory health, because their gut was changing so drastically, in terms of improving. In fact, in 4 weeks, I'll just finish up with this last piece of data. We showed a 40% increase in the diversity of their gut microbiome. So the host of the viruses and the fungi and the bacteria, that's really very health promoting if it's in the right way in terms of its balance of diversity. It improved 40% in 4 weeks, and we were able to maintain that in 8 weeks. And then we have a case study that we're getting ready to submit for publication. And we've been able to document that he lost 105 pounds in 120 days. So I know you all work with kilos, but it was a lot of weight that this individual lost in 120 days, almost a pound a day, almost a pound a day. And he was able to keep it off for 2 years because we have followed him up for 2 years. And his gut microbiome completely had a very, very low diversity of microbes in his gut, which is not healthy for us at all. We don't want to have a low. His completely remodeled, and he had a significant improvement in the diversity of his gut. So, yeah, that's just a little snippet. That's what won me over with Isogenics was their commitment to scientific research and truly third-party independent. They wanted to make sure that they were removed from any oversight, input, or potential conflict of interest in terms of the way that the study was conducted independently at a third-party university. And the findings as a result speak for themselves and are really compelling.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And that's a perfect answer and explanation to my question. So, Lockie, I saw you nodding away when you're talking about, lean muscle and all of that. So you two have had many conversations online. So maybe I'll let you just jump in here and see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm reminded when Dr. Paul's chatting about how often people will put so much focus on that weight loss, like overall weight loss, when quite often times if they're not going to be protecting that muscle, even though on the scales it might tell us a story that something's going right. You might think that, but in essence, that they might actually be heading down the wrong path, doing the wrong thing. And this is where quite often people yo-yo through that dieting experience because they're not necessarily losing what it is that they really want to lose, which is, of course, that body fat. And to do that at the same time, so when we focus on fat loss, in training prescription, we call that fat specific or fat loss specific training. And when we're trying to put on muscle, we might call that muscle building or bulking, some people call it. And when it's in between, it's called recomposition. It means the ability to lose body fat and gain muscle at the same time. And even for trainers, it's probably the most challenging effect to be able to achieve with your clients because it takes a lot more focus on just getting everything spot on. And the fact that with the isogenics plan, and particularly with reference to those studies, that they're able to do that is, yeah, it's amazing. Because you'll often hear people going, and I need to shred for summer, and they'll lose a little bit of muscle in the process. Now I need to bulk, and then they'll put on a lot of fat at the same time as put on the muscle. But to achieve both at the same time, it's this beautiful sort of a place where ultimately your body is so well nourished, it can grow muscle, but at the same time, your fat burning is at a high rate, so that you're able to do that. That balance, I think it's a beautiful symphony of different elements coming together, and it's quite complex. And if you can imagine that you can go on a plan that maps that all out for you, you could potentially achieve that. I'm always impressed by that. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you, Lockie.
Yeah, no worries. And
That
just
was really, no, it was great, Lox. It was really well said, and just to overemphasize that, as we age, that body recomposition becomes harder, right? We have a a challenge in our hormonal endocrine system that makes it a little bit more tricky. Compounded on top of that, of menopause for women and andropause for men, and so there's a couple of factors that make it more challenging. And it comes down to what Lockie was referring to in the science world is metabolic flexibility, how well your body can adapt and respond, and how nimble it can be in response to lifestyle strategies that you are engaging in terms of your nutrition and your movement experiences. And that's essentially what we measure. And that metabolic flexibility, which is always good. We want to always be flexible. We want to be flexible in our psychological approach to life, right? We know that people who are a little bit more rigid and less flexible struggle with different life challenges. And so much like we want to be flexible psychologically in how we respond in life to help build resilience, we also want to be resilient and nimble with our metabolism or with our metabolic system. And so that metabolic flexibility really helps with exactly what Lockie's describing, the body's ability to transition quicker into a fat burning mode. And that's really helpful when it comes to our body recomposition. So yeah, I guess we have the proven science to support that. And so you're all in the right place at the right time. And yeah, this is super exciting to be able to share this with all of you.
Mhm.
And
Thank you
Can
so
I
much.
can I
So
say something as well?
Oh.
Sorry, Heather. I was
Yeah, no, you go, Lockie.
just going to say something as well too, that I've learned in this industry especially that sometimes when you have professionals that are experienced, and we can obviously we perpetuate a message, and hopefully it catches someone at the right moment. I think as much as that is, it can be very effective and it builds a bit of credibility. It's important to remember that sometimes the person that needs to hear it is not necessarily just from us. It's from the people that are, perpetuating that message, that are living what you're all living. From coming at it from a personal perspective and an experience, that you'd be able to build a lot more connection with somebody. It might just be the perfect time to be able to have them listen. If you've ever heard like an audio book, and you've listened to it, and you might have taken a few things from it, and then you go back to it like 5 years later, and you could have sworn that someone put extra little bits in there, because the information now seems to just be the right time, the right moment for you to hear it, for it to absorb. I think never ever downplay your ability to connect with someone at the right moment that they need it. As much as sometimes it's great because we can reinforce the point, we've got the science, we've got that backup, but your ability to connect with that person, like I often say that about personal training as well too. Like for one person, I might be a really great trainer. For somebody else, I might not be their cup of tea. And that's why it's so important when if you're not a nutrition expert, you might not be a trainer, but you're a real person sending this message that is able to connect with someone far greater than even some of the experts can at the right time. Does that make sense? It just might be
Oh,
that beautiful connection that is that catalyst, that sliding door moment for a person, and that's that responsibility that you bear, and that hopefully you get excited about, because I don't think that there's anything as powerful. Yeah.
yeah, that I mean, Lox and I can go on, I think, for hours on this because it's so important. Everything he's saying, we call it the contagion theory. So over here in the States, Harvard, which is a premier university, I guess, in the world, but they've done a lot of research on this exact topic, the contagion theory. In many ways, it's very similar to a parent to a child, right? I mean, the parent's going to help the child along, and say hopefully all the right things and lead by example, but the child might not hear it. They might not receive it until they're with their peers. And then they become a conduit from what they've learned from their parents to their peers, and helping them along the way. And then indirectly, hopefully helping themselves. But I think that's really important. Yeah, what Lox is saying is that, you don't need to have us all the time. You don't have to feel like you have to be an expert. You have it within you now that you've heard it and you've experienced it. It's your time to shine, and it's your ability to serve as what we call an altar, right? We have what are called alter egos, and our egos sometimes can get in the way of us doing some really good things, but our altar part of us is the part that actually is what serves as the contagion to other people. And it doesn't really always have to be the loudest voice or the most sensational and exaggerated speaker or moment of fireworks. It can be very subtle in nature, of you just being with that person and living by example. When they get to see you take out your healthy shake, or your other healthy nutritionals, that's enough for you to be an altar for that other person. And so, yeah, you have it within you to be able to spread the word, as Lox says, and serve as a contagion in a really good way. Unfortunately, we have a lot of contagions in our society that are not so healthy, right? Classic examples of this are people who smoke, right? You don't have to say anything. Just by the act of you doing it, you actually can impress upon somebody in a really negative way, a very terrible lifestyle habit of smoking. We see it with people who are less optimistic, people that are pessimistic, that also people who don't eat healthy, they can serve as altars. So my point to all of this is that exactly what Lox is saying is that by you living your life in a way, um, even subtle, in very subtle ways, can make a massive impact on somebody else. You never know when that moment, that aha moment happens with somebody as they're watching you and observing you. So yeah, it's a good reminder for sure.
Well, I look at the room and I look at how many people are, listening to every word. And, if each of these people within the next month influences and is that altar to, another 10 people, think of what can happen actually out of this room, out of, you guys taking your time to be on this call. So that's really powerful. Any questions to jump in? And you're going to have to be pretty loud because they're here, not there. Yeah.
Um, Thank you so much, guys. This information is amazing. But I just want to ask Lockie something about like the fitness industry, and like I have a lot of friends now who are, really getting into the gym and weights, and like a lot of girls. But I've reached out to one or two, and one girl said to me, "Oh, my trainer wouldn't be happy if I if I looked good on academics," and I'm like, it kind of was like, well, what is the opinion? Like, what, like for you before you started academics, would you have an opinion on it? Like that wasn't good, or like, like, is it because it's a network marketing thing, or what kind of thing do you?
How do you approach that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think to understand firstly why or where the trainer might be coming from,
Yeah.
first and foremost is important. It gives you a better idea of perhaps how to put the products across. Is that oftentimes, I think this is in any profession, people uh, they become very attached to the way that they have been able to do what they do well. So if you've got a trainer that is working with people and they've got some great transformations and they've got a system that they run, then when another system comes along, it's not necessarily that they're just going to pinpoint all the things wrong with that system. It's just that they tend to be very emotionally attached to the way that they do things. They're very rigid with it. And if a trainer, if you think about as if you were a client, if you're a customer, if your trainer changed their opinion, on a monthly basis. Now we're keto fans. Now we're doing, fasting, and then you probably wouldn't have a lot of confidence with what they're doing because they're not, they really don't stick to any of their advice. They're kind of chopping and changing. So what often happens with a lot of trainers and professionals in general, they generally tend to sit in their own kind of little bubble and do their own thing. And if it's getting results, well, then, hey, I think to that there are certain professionals though that are a lot more open-minded. So for myself personally, I like to have an opinion of something by having an experience. I'm a lot more. I don't generally tend to sort of downplay anything until I've sort of had a close look or I've had an experience with it. Um, I mean, we've seen over the last 12 years, especially, I've worked with clients that have had trainers that even though the client has got phenomenal results and they're doing really well, the trainer still doesn't doesn't think that it's a good idea, almost that they're sort of they're planning out something bad's going to happen afterwards, or even though they've gotten great results. So your focus isn't so much just on the trainer that they're working with, because remember, a lot of what the trainer doesn't get a say or doesn't get to see a lot of is what's happening behind the scenes with the nutrition. It's probably one of the hardest things to really keep hold of. So, and to to monitor. What's interesting is that if they start doing it, they start getting great results. You can almost guarantee that the trainer's probably going to turn around and say, "See, we knew that this was going to
Yeah.
happen," and and potentially take credit for it. So, I mean, if you think of our system more of a lifestyle behind the scenes, it doesn't have to mean that you have to do every single thing. Most trainers aren't qualified, for instance, with nutrition as well, too, by the way. They don't have any, I mean, they might have their own understanding and might have some insights, certainly, but they don't have a qualification necessarily to write nutrition plans and etc. And yeah, it's a bit of an interesting sort of a thing. I think sometimes if you saw some of the trainers and what they actually eat, it's probably not realistic for a lot of people as well too, right? So it's but I think the main thing is to just to work with the person. We always like to get people to try things, to have a go, to have an experience. And if they have a good experience with it, they put it in their body. If they're able to live their life, if they're able to train better, if they're able to sleep better, all these things, that will be their own experience. And I think with we're not trying to convince anybody of anything. We've always said that. Sometimes it hurts when, we're all human and we're very passionate about the company when somebody might put it down or they try to lay out things that are wrong with it or try and, nitpick and etc. But at the end of the day, we have the confidence of course, the science and the people that are having the experience with it as well too, and our own experience. And I think there's always going to be naysayers, particularly when you're making waves. I've learned that across the board in my career. If I don't have anybody trying to pull me down, I'm probably not aiming high enough. That's just as simple as that. I never ask why there is so many pullers that try to sort of pull you down the mountain, but I think it's you just become a lot more comfortable and know that if that's the case, then you must be doing some good things. So work with the people and focus on the people that you can affect change with. And sometimes your own experience and the great results that you'll get with other people might just be that moment where that person might turn around and go, "Hey, I see obviously that this looks okay, okay, all right, I'll give it a go. But I think sometimes people also think that someone like myself, for instance, and they go, okay, what would you say to somebody, that says, hey, I'm not going to try that, I'm not going to do it, it's silly or whatever. Oftentimes, when I would deal with people, it'd be very different because they'd go, "Oh, you do isogenics. Is that stuff actually good? Because if you do it, I'll give it a go." But leverage that with the people that are doing it. Like if that's what's important to a person, just to know that healthy people that actually recommend nutrition also take on board isogenics and believe in it. I think sometimes, yeah, don't put too much pressure on yourself to feel like you need to go out there and try and completely switch their opinion. Show them with what you can do. I mean, it's only a matter of time when people start seeing these wonderful changes with people and within yourself. Because you know yourselves, when you're feeling healthy and you're feeling great, there's a different aura and energy about you. Like there's, I think that's something that is very, very different with what we do. When someone's got that momentum and they're feeling great, it comes across on your, we call it your sparkly bits, right? People can sense that. It's stuff that you can't necessarily put a finger on, but yeah, I would say that would
Is
that
there
would
anything
really
you'd
be.
like to add to that, Dr. Paul? I can see you thinking there, listening to Lockie.
Oh, this is such a good session for all of you. I think the other thing to keep in mind when there might be some opposition or some skepticism, that's healthy. You don't want people to dive in without having done their due diligence. I mean, sometimes that can be okay, and some people might go by that strategy. But I've always found that those that come in with some skepticisms, come in as I did, come in with some
Mm,
reluctance, and then really, dive into it and see what it has uh, behind it, and see what has formed its foundation or its existence. Um, that's the best way to win people over. So yeah, I
mm,
wouldn't, and it's hard not to be confrontational or a little defensive when people do set that up. But I think, let that take its course and let people show some skepticism. And if they have questions, I think we have what is needed at Isogenics I'm referring to. You have a pretty defensible place to stand on in terms of the foundation of the science. I mean, it's really hard to criticize isogenics in terms of its efficacy, how well it works. There's a lot of scientific support of it, and that's always the best starting place because it gives you a rock solid foundation. It's not it's not built on a house of cards, where there's a very weak foundation. So I think that's important. The one other thing is that isogenics is not a replacement for your entire nutritional intake, your total diet. It should serve the purpose of providing you the most high quality, nutrient dense nutrition from which you can complement the rest of your food intake. That's a really good way to look at it. And we like to promote the bookends of the day with isogenics, right? You start the day with the highest quality nutrition in a shake or a smoothie, whatever you want to call it. For many people, 200 we use 240 calories or 280 calories in the isoline shake. Is a great starting point, but to add in some additional nutrients into that shake is actually for many people necessary or required. So it helps you understand more about how to begin to put together a healthy meal. That the shake itself is fantastic. It is relatively lower on the end of calories, but that you can add other things to it, other healthy foods, blueberries, some good healthy fresh fruit, or some healthy fats in the form of coconut or avocado. I always like to sweeten mine up a little bit with some natural honey. So yeah, there's an opportunity, ginger, cinnamon. There's things that you can add to the shake to really further enhance your overall energy intake. And then doing it at the end of the day, or maybe some other point during the day where you maybe sometimes are vulnerable to not eating as well. I think that's an opportunity. So that's the way I look at isogenics. It's not a complete nutrition program. I think that's really important for people to understand. I think you want to use it as a foundation of optimal nutrition, and then making sure that you are providing yourself other forms of whole food to nourish your body at a really high level. But it's a great starting point, great foundation, and the science is rock science. And as Lockie said, we have a community that have been living with it and by it for a long time in really healthy ways.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We are nearly out of time. So, Belinda, Jen, Rach, anybody else, any final question that you'd like to ask these guys while we've got them here? You're good? Yeah.
Just like to say, thank you guys for coming on. But just to bring us back that we don't need to have to know all the science, because a lot of people will say to us, oh, sure, that's a bit of paper, how's it real, and things like that. So just for us to know that we don't need to know everything, that's a big thing with me, that I can just be me, use the product, show them, and not have to go into all that side of things. So thank you.
Yeah, Jen?
Yeah, sorry, but it's basic then for those people who do need that more information. I'll send, I don't know how many times I send the research papers from isodexhealth.net. So I say, do your due diligence, have a look. But at the same time, they want to know what's in it for them, and that's your story. So we need to know the science is there. And Lockie's got so many videos, Dr. Paul's on. I use their tools because then people know that they don't need to know all the information that we do. I mean, that they do. And then they'll share more frequently. Yeah. Thank you for the science, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
We love the backup. It is amazing.
Yeah.
And the posture that you can have around isogenics when we have conversations like this in my own lounge room, to be able to have you two here, if anybody doesn't walk out here bulletproof with what our product can do, and that it is fully backed by that science, is then they obviously weren't listening.
And I learned, thank you. I love the phrase that we bookend our day.
Yay!
I'll use it. That's awesome. Thank you. I write it down.
Okay, so Dr. Paul, how would you like to, just give us your final words, because we do need to let you get back to your family, and we so appreciate you, and Lockie too. Any final words, and we will wrap this up. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna end where I started. The attitude of gratitude. You living by example. What all of you are doing is tremendous, and there's such a desperate need. I think there's a lot of similarities in some ways with Australia, although your lifestyle obviously is a little bit different. I would call it a little bit healthier than the US, but nonetheless, I think around the world we're feeling the pressures of just life in general, whether it's physical health, mental, psychological health that we're experiencing, and stress. And so attitude goes a long way. And we have a solution that is scientifically proven to help support this mindset, to keep us in a better place of nourishment. And by the way, there's tremendous scientific support that, our nutrition helps support not just our physical health, but also our cognitive, emotional health. And Isogenics has a system to help us, and we're an integrated organism, and being able to nourish our body at the beginning of the day and the end of the day is a great reminder for people with the highest quality nutrition. So, yeah, other than just I think with all that we have going on in this world, with all the challenges that we confront, staying well nourished keeps us in an attitude of gratitude and living by example. And you're all doing that, and that's what we're here to support. So once again, thank you for providing me this opportunity to share. Yeah, it's been a real treat.
Thank you so much. Lockie, any final words of how you love working with Dr. Paul?
I was just going to say it's always a pleasure, Paul. I'll jump at a chance to give a have a chat with you, mate. And yeah, thank you. I also like the bookend thing. I know that you probably threw that off as just a throwabout line, but yeah, I think your expertise is always so impressive, but at the same time, your ability to make it real and to make it stick is is just amazing, mate. So thank you very much. And to everybody, yeah, thanks for doing what you do. And yeah, I think one of the most important things that I lean on to with isogenics, because there's a lot of noise out there. Remember, there's a lot of products, and I always say, hey, listen, don't ever feel like you're in competition. Acknowledge that there's some wonderful products out there. Try not to ever try to compete with one product versus another. Just know that our system is what makes us powerful, and that's the real difference here. So if someone says, but I've got this shake and it compares to this, then understand you could do that all day with every single one of our products, but there's no one else that brings them all together. And in this day and age, we're busy. We like things to be mapped out for us, and we do that for our people. And it just so happens that it works really, really well. We've got the science to prove it. So lean into the system. Try not to specify just that one product, and I think you'll find it much better, and you'll have a lot more confidence in sharing the love. So thank you, and yeah, hope to see you all
Thank you
soon.
so much. I'm going to ask everybody to get around so we can see you all, because we need a screenshot of, I've changed it now that we have the other view. So let's make sure we have everybody. And
You're all in summer now, right? Coming into summer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that right?
here we are. Hang on a minute. Okay, can we
Oh,
see
almost there.
everybody? Where's Smile? Is everybody there? Woo-hoo. Am I there? Somewhere? Awesome.
Nice.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
so much.
Enjoy. Thank you
Appreciate
all.
you.
Lovely day.
Absolutely. Thank
Locks,
you.
great seeing you.
You too,
Thank
mate.
you
We'll
so
catch
much,
up
Dr.
soon.
Paul.
Thanks, Heather.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.